Did any of you guys ever play Duke Nukem? What was a premier shooter franchise. It was a lot of fun to play. I got introduced to this franchise by one of my best friends, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to play, and one of those games that I ended up kind of getting involved in the community somewhat, and just kind of started talking about it years ago. And we haven't heard anything about a new Duke Nukem game, So in this segment, I want to talk about what happened to Duke Nukem. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Paul Vigil of Gaming Bolt, during the height of the franchise's popularity, Duke Nukem symbolized a very traditional masculine sense of cool. Duke Nukem is a badass, and he's better than you, and he can take on anything. While they got their start computers rather than on consoles, the Duke Nukem franchise's reputation easily precedes itself. We'll discuss more about the franchise in this article. The franchise first got its start with the eponymous Duke Nukem in 1991. The franchise is most known for 3D level progression, much in the same way that Doom or Quake games play, but it actually got its start as a 2D scrolling platformer wherein the player navigates Duke to the end of the level, all the while managing his health bar and collecting enhancements for health or weapons. This game Obviously, it was a game whose story is told in 3 episodes, with Duke Nukem pursuing the evil Dr. Proton through Los Angeles, a base on the moon, and in the future in the first, second, and third episodes, respectively. Now, this game, which was, of course, the first Duke Nukem, was followed up by Duke Nukem 2 in 1993 and would be another 2D scrolling platformer following Duke Nukem as he fights against an evil alien race who seek to take over the Earth across 4 episodes, each with 8 levels. It would be with Duke Nukem 3D that the franchise and its reputation would really take off. It's the franchise's first-person shooter and sits amongst a pantheon of pivotal computer FPSs such as Quake, Doom, and Wolfenstein 3D for their popularizing of 3D shooter action games. Now, so here's the thing, guys, is really Duke Nukem 3D was obviously the one that really kind of took the series, what got people to really start paying attention to Duke Nukem. I didn't get into the franchise till way after this, but I'll tell you guys when I kind of got into it, and then we'll kind of continue, like talking about like where did this maybe go wrong, and did it ever go wrong, or is it just in a limbo state at this point as far as the future of the franchise is concerned? So Duke Nukem 3D also incorporates game design ideas that noticeably differ it from its franchise predecessors, such as a portable medkit that allows Duke Nukem to himself at will. And while Duke Nukem 3D would be followed up by a host of other spin-offs following its release, there would not be a proper sequel for quite some time, not until 2011 with Duke Nukem Forever. Not that this was intended to be the case, as it was initially announced back in 1997, but was delayed and even officially canceled at one point in 2009, though development continued in spite of that. 3D Realms, responsible for the development of the influential Duke Nukem 3D, did not end up completing the game themselves, but Triptych Games and Gearbox Software would finish the job, with Triptych containing some personnel from original Duke Nukem developers 3D Realms. Duke Nukem Forever features interesting deviations from past games, including the way health works. First, Duke Nukem's ego bar must be depleted, and then his health bar can be depleted. Duke Nukem Forever was also treated to a DLC expansion called The Doctor Who Cloned Me, an additional scenario campaign featuring the villain Dr. Proton from the first Duke Nukem game. While Forever left the door open for a sequel, the reviews for the game were negative across the board, with the game being seen as dated both in its gameplay design and regressive or offensive in its humor. So this is where I got into the series, guys, was Duke Nukem Forever back in 2011. For being my very first Duke Nukem game, I enjoyed it a lot, and that's what kind of got me involved in the community. And I know that there was a lot of backlash to this game. There were people who didn't enjoy it or appreciate it as much. I thought it was pretty good for what it was, especially seeing as how many years before Duke Nukem Forever, when the last, edition or rendition of this series was released. And so I thought it was a decent, move in the right direction. This all said and done, it would turn out that Duke Nukem Forever holds the longest ever development time for a video game, a time marked by repeated releases of promotional media, 14 years and 44 days. Rather than a strong return to form, the game is mostly known for a comically long development time and for being disappointing upon release. The Duke Nukem franchise has also been host to a variety of spin-off games. Releasing in 1998 on the PlayStation is Duke Nukem Time to Kill. This game was not developed by 3D Realms but by N-Space. Following that in 1999 for the Nintendo 64 is Duke Nukem 0 Hour, developed by Eurocom, known for their work on certain 007 titles. However, while 007 GoldenEye is seen as an N64 classic, this game released to mediocre reviews. The last main spin-off for the Duke Nukem franchise would be Duke Nukem Manhattan Project, originally releasing for PC in 2002. It is a game that plays in 2.5D and allows for the player to focus, zoom on either the environment or on enemies, and at times allowing the use of jetpack for traversal. So while Duke Nukem Forever teased a sequel, the future doesn't seem good for another Duke Nukem game at all. In a statement dated April 2017, Gearbox made it clear that they have no plans to work on another Duke Nukem game anytime soon after discussing Duke Nukem's cameo appearance in Bulletstorm. It's a rather strange turn of fate for a franchise littered with canceled projects, signaling the once great interest in continuing the life of the franchise. The voice actor for Duke Nukem outright stated in a Twitter post at the end of this past January that there is nothing in the works for Duke Nukem. We can hope that the fate of the character change in the future, but in order to do so, the character very likely has to evolve and find a place in the modern gaming landscape rather than playing to gameplay experiences or humor sensibilities associated with the past. What do you think is needed for a new Duke Nukem game to succeed? So, look, guys, I think that Duke Nukem, I just think that the problem and what happened to the series as a whole was the amount of time, you know, to get to Duke Nukem Forever. For us to get a new Duke Nukem game, it took so long. I mean, obviously 14 years, right, to get one. I mean, I always have thought, like, you know, to get a new StarCraft game from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2 was like 10 years. That's a long time. 14 years to get a new Duke Nukem, that is just such a long period of time. I think that there's still something with Duke Nukem. I think that they definitely could continue onwards. I think that they should probably just wait until the next generation consoles come out, that be the Xbox Series X as well as the PlayStation 5. But honestly, guys, I think that, you know, the problem is that people that gave it a chance, it didn't really meet the expectations of what people were expecting for that comeback of Duke Nukem. So I definitely think that this isn't a lost franchise. I think that it definitely could come back at some point or another in the foreseeable future. But it looks like right now Gearbox, they're trying to state that, you know, look, we're not working on it. But obviously, it's kind of probably something that's in the back of their minds. I'm sure at some point or another, we could maybe see another Duke Nukem in the foreseeable future. Once they probably, you know, I think that if they just come together, rehash some ideas, I think that they really could make a really good Duke Nukem game. And I think that this is a franchise that should certainly exist, not just back in the N64 days and things of that nature, but should be existing right now in gaming today. That's just, you know, one man's opinions. I would love to hear yours. Let me know in the comment section below. And for all upcoming news related to a Duke Nukem sequel, stay right here with Zero TV.